What's up, guys? Bones88 here, and we have another top 10 for you guys this week. I'm probably going to do a top 10 every week. I'm trying to fish for content, fish for things to talk about and do, so we'll probably be doing a top 10 every week. Today we're going to be doing the top 10 healers in the game. There's a lot of great healers in the game. This whole top 10 list is nothing but good characters that you should go for, so I'm excited about doing this list. It's going to be fun. Let's get on into it because it's going to be kind of a long one. Alright, so number 10 we have Xantara. At one point in the game, when it first came out, Xantara was everyone's favorite healer. She was the best healer, she was the most amazing thing in the game, blah blah blah. Well, as the game's evolved, that's not really the case. She kind of fell quite a bit behind. She's a mediocre healer. She's still got a lot of good things in her kit, a lot of cool things going on. Actually, every move in her kit, she's healing somebody or healing something. So she's pretty good. She's more of a niche character that you want to put with like a slinger team to counter your goblin team in battlegrounds. I don't use her anywhere else. Never have. I don't really hear about anyone else using her anywhere else. But, you know, starting out in the game, she's not a bad healer to have when you're first beginning the game. So her biggest part of her kit is her passive. And with a level 7... she restores one turn to a random ability at the start of a turn. I think that's just for her, but then she restores one turn to 2 random allies. So that's pretty huge. That's a passive. That's every turn. That's kind of like a leadership ability, but it's in her passive. So that's pretty awesome. And I guess technically you could plug and play her to be able to restore, you know, ability cooldowns and everything like that. I don't know. I mean, maybe with a major shot lead and her, I don't know. Maybe they could just constantly be restoring cooldowns. I can't talk today. And so just real quickly, like on this one, she's attacking but restoring health to herself and Mega Wheel. She has a lot of synergy with Mega Wheel. You want to pair them together if you can. With her healing ability, the one bad thing is she loses health as she's healing everyone else. Kind of cool, but not cool for you. You know, it's unique, but it's not really what you want. It also gains shield equal to 7% of maximum health for each living demon in the party. So you're getting shield though, so you kind of make up for it. And then the basic ability heals the ally with the lowest health. So that's pretty cool too. So that's all I got to say about Xantara. She's really cool. Really, really good for the beginner players, but not as good as in-game. So number 9, Selena. Selena is one of the most underrated characters in the game. If you have her to gear 12, gear 13, she should probably be higher on my list. But because she's not as good at gear 11 and stuff, she's still really good. She's number 9 on my list. She's really amazing. So to see why she's so awesome, we have to look at her kit really quickly. Her passive. She is removing 2 random buffs from an enemy at the end of every turn and then applies them to random allies for the same duration. So she's taking buffs from the team, putting them on her team for the same duration there is. It applies cheat death instead if you remove taunt or invisibility from somebody, because that screws you over if you're copying that. So they changed that, they buffed it to where it turns it into cheat death if it's taunt or invisibility. That's huge. Once again, like Xantara, it's kind of like a leadership type feel to it. But it's just a passive and it's doing it every turn. That's dangerous, kind of. Like I said, she's really good, and maybe I made her a little bit too low now I'm thinking about it. So once again, looking at her A3, like her A3 is pretty awesome. You're healing all allies. If the allies are afflicted with debuffs, she's removing 2 random debuffs and applying the opposite buffs for those. So she's doing what she's doing similar, but then she's taking debuffs off her actual team and then turning them into buffs. I mean, that's huge. So she's just constantly buffing everybody. Those 2 right there are nuts. That's crazy. And so she has a mass heal, and then her A2 can heal a single person, and her basic's just doing damage, and I think gives a tenacity decrease or something. But overall, she's very, very underrated. She's a great human and just a great healer in general. I mean, she works better with humans, but I think use her in lots of places. She's also very plug and play, and you'll find almost every healer is in this game, which is really neat. Number 8, we have Frank. Frank is an absolute beast. You need Dr. Frank to glue together the Murdoch team. If you want a good goblin team, Frank is the first guy you need to get. As soon as you think about working on goblins, whether you're in-game, beginner game, he should be the first guy you think about. You should be taking him, upgrading him as far as you can to keep making that team even better. Does he die much? No, he doesn't. He's usually one of the last people to die on the field, which is pretty good too. But he is very plug and play, and he's essential for goblins. So first of all, let's go over why he's so essential to the goblin team. Well, his A2 here puts out shock. So you get that shock put out, it's an AoE, you get it put out on the entire team. Well, anytime a goblin hits a shocked character, an enemy character, they're assisting. So you want to keep shock out there at all times. You want his potency to be kind of high so you can land that shock. And the more shock you have, the longer you have it out there, the more assists you're going to keep bringing in, and it gets crazy. Also, he and Frank and Old Lore have synergy. I think you have to have some T7s or something. I don't really remember. But if you have them both in the team, they're calling another person to assist. So if you have Frank and Old Lore in the same team, there's almost twice the assists going on. They can get really crazy. Really crazy. Now, as far as his healing A3 goes, it can be plug and played. It doesn't need to be in goblins. It heals for 440% of Frank's magic damage to shields of all allies. And then it restores health to all allies equivalent to 50% of restored shield. In reality, when you're out there fighting with him, it's a lot of shield and it's a lot of health. And it goes for all allies. It's not just for goblins. And it's a great, great healing move. So that's really all I had to say about him. But he's a great plug and play healer. He glues the goblin team together. I mean, he does a decent amount of attack. His AoE does a pretty good amount of damage for being a healer. Alright, number 7, we have Saboteur. Saboteur is a newer character in the game, but he is very effective, very cool looking character. I believe he was inspired by Ozzy Osbourne, I think the devs said, so that's pretty cool. But a wonderful healer. He has a lot going on in his kit that's very effective. He pairs best with Hard Orc. He has built-in synergy with him, and they just work great together. One thing I will say is he's not very effective at Gear 11. Even at Gear 12, he's still kind of squishy. I think he's someone that you take straight to Gear 13, and you're going to be seeing some craziness and some pretty annoying crap with him. So to really get to understand Saboteur, you kind of have to look at his kit and see what's going on. So I'm going to start with his basic, which I don't usually do, but you'll see where this is going. He deals damage, and if the target received damage to its health, if they have protection, this isn't going to happen. But if it has damage to its health, he inflicts buff immunity. That means they can't get any buffs, okay? So his A2 is the reason why he's such a great healer. That's why we're here, right? He's healing allies for 540% of magical damage, which is a lot. I mean, almost 600%, that's a lot. So he can really heal you. Usually he'll take you to max health. Very rarely does that not happen. But if allies already have full health, he's giving them shield equivalent to his magical damage. And then applies potency increase to all allied orcs. Orcs really need potency. Almost all of them really need high potency to get everything you need out of them to be very, very effective. Almost all orcs need a lot of potency. And so him putting potency up on them really helps your team out. That's a bigger deal than what you would think. So why I showed you the basic is because of his A3. So what his A3 does, it's removing all debuffs from himself. He applies to himself and all allies armor increase. Armor increase is a pretty dang good buff. They're harder to kill. Now everyone's harder to kill. And orcs aren't a team that's easy to kill anyways. So armor increase is huge. If Hard Orc's in the team, he's applying debuff immunity, which is maybe one of the biggest buffs in the game. No one can put a buff on you. And that really helps you from being ability blocked or whatever, so that Hard Orc can keep putting out his ability blocks. So it's just, that helps out even more. This is the one that's really cool though. He inflicts slow and daze for 2 turns to all enemies that are afflicted by ability block or buff immunity. If you're hitting people with his basic and putting out buff immunity, you have Hard Orc. Well, he has an AoE ability block. So the likeliness of someone having one or both of those debuffs is very, 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 very likely. So that means you're applying slow and daze on top of that. My God, you're negating a whole entire team. He is actually a great healer. He works great with orcs, works great with Hard Orc, and I don't like putting Hard Orc in a team if I can't put Saboteur with him. That may not be the best team in the world, but like in Battlegrounds, I like to keep those two together. So that's it for Saboteur. I recommend getting him as fast as you can, and he is very, very available in one of the stores. So as soon as you start the game, if you're a newbie, start working on Saboteur. You need orcs first anyways, and he is a beast. Alright, number 6, Patriarch Chi. Patriarch Chi is a very interesting character. He has a leadership, he has a crazy A3, he heals all kinds of places, and is just a pretty cool, versatile healer. The reason I have him up so high is probably because he has a leadership. Otherwise, he'd probably be a little bit lower, but his leadership is what makes him even more valuable because you can make a painted team out of him. Is he the best painted leader? No, I do not think so. So let's start with his leadership ability. All ally healing abilities apply a shield equal to 45% of the health healed. All attacks by allies from the order restore their shield by 20% of their damage dealt. Now, most people I know use this leadership with all pandas, but realize that none of that pertains to the pandas by themselves. It's just order and healers. That's it. So he's someone that you might want a second healer with, because the more healing, they are applying shield now at this point. So I think someone like Kulai and Patriarch Chi lead is something that would be really, really beneficial. So looking over at his passive, when he's applying a shield, so we just read his leadership, anytime he's applying a shield, Patriarch heals an ally by 30% of that shield. The ally with full health gains 25% more shield instead. So that's his passive. Not bad. His A3, this is why he's this high too. Just recently, they added T7s for him, and this brought him up a notch. He's pretty much a mini Eric Shieldbreaker. So he's gaining a tenacity increase and applies it to 4 allies for 2 turns. Allies from the order gain tenacity increase and self-control for 2 turns instead. He restores 260% of Patriarch Chi's magic damage to shields of all allied pandas and applies a debuff immunity for 2 turns. So he's pretty much putting the whole entire team underneath debuff immunity, not to mention self-control and all this other stuff, but the debuff immunity is huge. That's keeping people from putting buffs on the team. That one little T7 is massive for him. Massive for him and all the pandas. Where he was kind of falling out of favor, they brought him right back in with that A3 there. This A2 is really good. I use it a lot. But all it does is it gives an ally a shield and removes 3 debuffs from an ally. So usually I'm putting it on there just on someone who has the lowest health on the team. I slap it on there and they get a bunch more shield. But if someone's really debuffed down, you could use that. But with his A3, you're not really getting buffs. So I'm not really using it to cleanse anybody. I'm just using it to heal up shields. So that's about it for him. Like I said, the biggest reasons he's up here is because of his A3 and his leadership. If he didn't have that T7 they just added recently, and he didn't have a leadership, he wouldn't even be on this list. He's still a decent panda to have. I still use him to this day in the end game, so if you're a beginner, go for him. He's great, and you'll need him for events and anything else. So he is a must in the game. Great healer. Love the guy. Go get him. Alright, number 5, we have Soleus. This man was the very first legendary in the game, and he has been holding strong since day 1. He is amazing. A great leader, a great human, a great healer. He's an all-around amazing character, and still to this day, a Soleus-led humans decent Battlegrounds team is one of the hardest defensive teams to take on. There's not quite an actual hard counter to them. They're always a pain, and Soleus is just amazing. I mean, look at him. He looks like a badass. He still to this day is the coolest looking character, one of the best leaders, one of the best healers. He's just amazing, guys. I mean, if a beginner player asked me, like, who should I be going for? What's my goals? I'd tell him, orcs first, get Soleus. Once you unlock Soleus, it's all downhill from there in a good way. Like, things get so much easier. So much easier. He is amazing. Well, what makes him so amazing? So, his leadership first. Let's check it out. Both physical and magic damage of all allies from the order increased by 25%. That's quite a bit. That's not bad. The counterattack chance of all allied humans increases by 10% for each living human in the party. That gives you a 50% increase to counterattack. That is nuts. If you want to see their counterattacking at their full potential, go against some goblins. I've just sat there and just watched them attack each other back and forth forever. It's funny. But that's huge. Counterattack is huge. And so it goes on. I'll go ahead and read it, but it goes on and it just has a synergy for every order factions. Elves get 5% increase in crit chance for every living elf in the party. The potency of all allied pandas increased by 5% for each panda in the party. One elf, which is Nightingale, is the only elf you really need to have in the comp. Alright, moving on to his passive. His passive reads, when the battle starts, all allied human defenders, so tanks, receive an armor increase for 3 turns, so which will likely be Little Baddie. All allied human healers and rogues receive cheat death for 3 turns. And all allied human warriors, mages, and rangers receive a potency increase for 3 turns. If Nightingale is on the battlefield, she receives all these buffs as well. That's why you want her on there, because they are literal partners. Eventually, that won't be the case. You'll want to make a Nightingale team in Battlegrounds, but the best Soleus team has a Nightingale on it. But you see, like, his passive and his leadership are like 2 leaderships under one, as long as you're keeping it human, you know. So he pretty much has 2 leaderships. And then now we're just getting to his healing part. Like, that was just all his passives and leaderships. This A3 is pretty good. It's only healing and doing this to one person, but it heals, and it applies an armor increase, tenacity increase, haste, damage increase, and cheat death for 2 turns. So just heals them up, gives them a cheat death so they can't die the first time, and haste, and more damage, and harder to kill. I mean, it's a great move. Even though it's for one person, that's fine. It would be broken if it was for everybody. So that's a huge move. And then you have his mass heal, and all it does is it heals all allies. That's it. But it's a huge heal. And he always comes up with it when you need him the most. Such a great character. And then I really like his basic when you have Nightingale with him. He's just dealing damage, but he has a 15% chance to restore 1 turn to a random ally. Anytime you're returning a turn to a random ally's ability, that is crazy good. And then, if you have Nightingale, he calls Nightingale to assist if she's on the battlefield. So, that basic is huge. He is a crazy character, guys. If you're new, get some orcs, unlock Soleus, and the game will get better for you guys. Everyone else, you know how much of a boss he is. He's got his little water bottle when he needs to get hydrated. He stays hydrated. So yeah, stay hydrated, folks. Drink water. Alright, number 4, we have Kulai. Now that I'm making this video, I'm kind of second guessing myself for taking Kulai up so high. But I've been talking to Warghoul and stuff, and I just faced, I don't know if she was Gear 12 or Gear 13 Kulai, but the team was almost unbeatable. The longer Kulai stays alive, the longer you're going to get your butt whooped. She has to be the first one you kill on the battlefield. If that's the case, that means you're a badass. Anyone I think of that I'm like, I need to kill them first, or I'm screwed, that means they're really damn good. And Kulai isn't that good at Gear 11. I don't have her to Gear 12, so I don't know how she is there. But if you have her at Gear 13, I don't think you're going to be able to beat her, unless you take in something crazy good. I don't know. I'm not at that stage, but I took one on, and it was crazy. It was crazy. And Warghoul was like, yeah, I saw that, and I think he told me there's a team that he couldn't even beat with her on there. That's the only reason why she's above Soleus, is because you get her high enough geared, and she's damn near unstoppable. I'm not saying you can't beat her. She's not meta, as you see, but when it comes to Battlegrounds, she's probably somebody I would want to take to Gear 13 sooner rather than later. Okay, so why is she so crazy, right? Well, it's her insane turn meter gain. So her passive, Kulai gains 25% increased magical damage and an additional 10% for each alive panda. Well, you want her in a panda team. She's very plug and play, don't get me wrong. But you want her in a panda team, right? So she's getting a nutty amount of magical damage, but she's still not really... You don't notice that on the battlefield. So it's not about her damage she puts out. It's about this. Every time an ally loses health, an ally, not just a panda, anytime an ally loses health, Kulai's gaining 25, or Kulai's gains 20% of turn meter. That's a lot of turn meter. And that's just when someone's getting hit, guys. And that's not it. If allied panda loses more than 20% of maximum health, Kulai restores an additional 20% of turn meter. So of course you want her with pandas because that's more turn meter she's getting. But either way, that's why she's plug and play, because she's still gaining turn meter if someone loses health. That is insane. That's crazy, guys. Crazy, crazy. So, this is her mass healing move, but I use this even when everyone has full health, and you'll see why. She removes healing block from all allied pandas, heals all allies for 300%, full health allies gain damage increase for 2 turns instead. Restores 1 turn of Spirit of Zoo now to Ember. So that's an extra good thing for Ember. Once again, you're wanting to keep it, Panda. But the damage increase for 2 turns. I like to use Kulai because she's not good enough for my painted team yet. I use her with the Nightiel team. It puts damage up. It gets you out doing more damage. Nightiel has synergy with healers. It's just actually a pretty good team together. I don't see a lot of other people using it, but it usually works for me. But that damage increase, I use it right away. So this one's good too. Like I like that healers have a single target heal and a mass heal. This one's her single target one, and it removes 1 debuff, and Kulai gains self-control for 2 turns. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but it helps people stay alive, helps the team go, removes a debuff. Not much, but I guess it helps somewhat. And self-control is a really good buff also. So her basics, nothing to write about, but yes, the turn meter gain is why she's so high up here. If you get her thick, you get her Gear 12, Gear 13, it's going to be really hard to take them down if it's an all-panda team. The turn meter is nuts. It's insane. And when I read this, I thought she was going to be broken. I don't think she's quite broken, but she was really close to being broken. And although I kind of think she's not better than Soleus, I kind of take this back. I think she's still top 5, no matter what. So, unfortunately, she's very hard to get. I can't farm her except for the event stores, crystals. I think that's it. So, she's very hard to get. I want to get her to 7-star. I want to Gear 12 her. And as soon as I can get her to that point, she will be Gear 12. I can't recommend her enough. Ladies and gentlemen, Kulai. Alright, number 3, Roxy. This is another character I undervalued a lot. Once I got her done up, geared to 11, 7-star, all that, I was like, how did I sleep on her? And what made me want to do this is I played a Roxy Pride in Battlegrounds, and it stopped me. If I remember right, I couldn't even get past it. I was just done. I lost, I think. Let me tell you, she is amazing. One of the most unique characters in the game. One of the most unique kits in the game. She is awesome. If you guys watch my free-to-play account, she's one of the first characters I've gotten. I'm doing Pride, and when you're starting out, you got to do Roxy because you can't unlock Renara until way later in the game. And I'll tell you what, she's just as good as Renara. So the reason she's so unique is she has the feather system, and this is the way this feather system works. On her passive, at the end of the turn, Roxy gains 1 stack of feather for 2 turns. Allies with at least 1 stack of feather gain 1 random buff. Kagi and Boreas gain 2 random buffs. So Kagi, Boreas, and Roxy have synergy together, and quite a bit of it. And then Kagi and Boreas have synergy together, so they're getting all kinds of buffs really quickly. And then it tells you the possible buffs. It's pretty much almost everything underneath the sun. So her A3. Targeted allies gain 5 stacks of feather for 2 turns. If Kagi is an ally, gains 5 additional stacks. If Boreas is an ally, gains 5 additional stacks. Each stack of feather reduces incoming damage by 5%. So it's kind of hidden in there. It's like, what the hell does feathers do? Well, it's reducing incoming damage by 5%. So every stack you get 5%. So, I mean, I've seen people get like 15. So that's a crap load of damage reduction. Also, if you put it on Salvador, his damage done to him is nil, 0, zilch. But I do like to put feathers on her, and here's why. So, she's doing a mass heal to everybody, and for every stack of feather on Roxy herself, she gets an additional 20% of magic damage. So she's hitting pretty hard for a healer. So it's kind of like, okay, well, do I want to reduce the damage on some people and make us more tankier? Or do I want to make us more offensive friendly and stack some feathers on Roxy and put out some damage? And she does a decent amount. It's not like she's just one-shotting people, but for a healer, she does pretty good when you stack some feathers on her. And here's where that damage comes in even more, because her basic's pretty good. She's dealing magic damage to an enemy, and deals an additional 14% of magic damage for each stack of feather on Roxy. It removes 1 stack of feather from Roxy whenever she uses her basic. But still, an extra 14%, that's pretty crazy. So only when she has a bunch of feathers is it improving her offense and defense. Otherwise, you're putting it on other people, it just makes them more defensive. But when you take her out on the battlefield, you see the difference. You're like, wow. And she's so versatile and she's so fun that it's like a lot of battles, you don't know where you're going to put your feathers at. You kind of have to analyze and say, okay, this dude's almost dead. Maybe I should throw feathers over there to reduce the damage. Or everyone's looking fine, so I'm just going to throw feathers on Roxy, keep her alive, and do some more damage. It's really fun. She's so unique, so much fun. And it's kind of hard to tell on Kit, like, what's going on. But I'm telling you, build her up. Get to her at least gear 11. She does work at gear 11. She's fine there. And put her on a Pride team, and she's a blast. Now, of course, she has Pride synergy, but you can plug and play her and do different things. Those feathers are universal for everybody. It doesn't matter. You can make someone more defensive with those feathers, no matter who it is. It's just Boreas and Kagi get buffs and stuff from her. Alright, at number 2, our second Pride healer on the list, Renara. Renara is cool. I love foxes. They're my favorite animal on the planet. She is a fox. I wish we had more foxes, but she is awesome. She's a legendary character, so she takes a long time to get to, but once you get her, she is so fun, man. So fun. She's very unique. She has one move, which is revive. She can revive a character, one character at a time. No one else can revive in this game. Nobody. And that's why she's so far up on this list, is because of that one revive. Now, she does other good things, don't get me wrong, but that revive makes her so unique and so helpful in so many places. That revive is huge. And I would almost say, kit-wise, Roxy's better than her, but she cannot revive. But don't let that take away from her rest of her kit. She's a great healer, guys. An amazing healer. The only thing is, I think she's a little squishy. The power creep of this game is kind of catching up with her, and she's kind of dying way too fast. So I just took her to gear 12 the other day. I still use her a lot, and I just think she needs some more health and shield combo. But if you see at gear 12, she's pretty much at 100,000 health and shield. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good, and I haven't really got to use her yet, so I'm excited. So her passive. At the end of every turn, Renara is restoring 15% max health and 15% max shield to any ally who has 2 or more stacks of regeneration. All allies with full health after that effect gain cheat death for 2 turns. So for a passive, that's pretty good, but it has the caveat of people needing regeneration. So just remember that. So her A3, this is where she revives. She resurrects a random ally with 50% of their health and applies regeneration to them for 2 turns. So they get regeneration, so every turn they're gaining a little bit of health back for a couple turns. This is her mass heal ability. She's healing all allies and applies regeneration for 3 turns. So maybe, you know, if you think, oh, I'm about to have a mass amount of damage incoming from the enemy team, even though they might have full health or near full health, you might use this move to get that regeneration on everybody for 3 turns. 3 turns is a lot. And that's going to have them gaining health back for 3 turns because of her passive ability. And if you look at her basic here, she's applying regeneration to the ally with the lowest health for 2 turns. That's really big too, because that's keeping the person who's about to die on your team alive just by using a basic. So that's really good. Her entire kit is very helpful and ties in good with her, and she's pretty much universal for anybody. She can revive anybody, she can put regeneration on anybody. She is not stuck with pride. She just does best with pride because of leaderships and other passives from other characters. So she thrives best in a pride team, but I would say get Roxy and Renara, throw Roxy in on your pride team and put Renara somewhere else. Because I bet you she's more helpful if you have Roxy. If you just have Renara, keep her on your pride. But if you have Roxy, Renara is probably more valuable somewhere else. And that's another reason why she's higher up on this than Roxy is, because her plug and play viability is insane. It's insane. She's one of the most pluggable characters in the game. That mass heal is a huge heal. She's putting regeneration all over the place. She's reviving people, and that's why Renara is number 2 on the list. Alright, and at number 1, the snake herself, Nessa. This is my girl. Maybe my favorite character in the entire game. And, if you notice, this is the 3rd Pride healer in a row on my list. Obviously, Pride's doing something right. I think they have the best healers in the game. And I put them top 3. I mean, they're all amazing in their own way. They all have very unique, different kits, and they all do different things, but they all work so well. And I can't speak enough about the Pride as a whole. They are also my favorite team in the entire game. So Nessa, I mean, besides her just looking freaking bad arse, like, she just is one of the coolest looking characters in the game. But she's doing some crazy stuff. She's very reliant on putting debuffs out on the team, and that's not as hard as you think with her kit. You get the right people. She does very good in like a poison heavy team, and you'll see why here in a minute when we go over the kit. So what she does is she brings some crappy characters in the game and makes them relevant and makes them a great team together. People like Voiran, people like Thanessa. Thanessa's not as good as you might think. She helps you solo the T9 raid, and she doesn't do much else. Maybe if you get her like really geared up, maybe, but she's not very useful in the game overall. But she is in a poison heavy Nessa team. So let's just go over to the kit. You'll see more why I'm talking about what she is. But on top of that, she's a leader. She's probably the best leader in the Pride. She's amazing, and let's see why. So all Pride members gain 20% tenacity. That's huge. That's making Salvador better. By this point, if you have all 7s on Salvador, have him to gear 12, and put him behind this, I mean, he's just unstoppable. With Steel Shell, he's just nuts. At the start of the battle, all Pride members gain shield equal to 20% of their health. Well, Salvador's a tank, so he has a lot of health, has a lot of shield. Now you're adding 20% more of that right from the get-go. The only thing you're missing is the taunt right from the get-go. Hera gives that, Nessa does not. At the start of the battle, inflicts poison for 2 turns to all enemies. So poison's very important as we go through this kit, just remember that. But as soon as the battle starts, everyone has poison on them. So her passive. Nessa gains 12% increase of damage and potency for each alive Pride member. So as they die off, this goes down. If Nessa takes damage that drops her health below 100%, Salvador loses all his debuffs and gains taunt for 2 turns. So you kind of get a taunt early on without having to trigger it through Salvador, but she has to get down to where she loses her health. So not bad. I mean, that's okay caveat. I mean, I'm okay with that. But this is the big one. This is the one I like. It's kind of like having a Zera leadership as an A3. She gives shield to herself and an ally with the lowest current health for each poison enemy. So you're healing more the more poison that's out there. Inflicts tenacity decrease to all enemies for 3 turns. When it gets to 3 turns, that's a long freaking time, guys. It inflicts daze to all poisoned enemies for 3 turns. So you want everyone poisoned by the time you get this move out. So you're applying daze for 3 turns. That's a lot of daze. Inflicts poison and critical chance decrease for 2 turns to all other enemies. So if they're not poisoned and you weren't able to land daze, well, you've now been poisoned and your crit chances have been decreased. Awesome move. Very satisfying to do. It's a blast, dude. She's so cool. So her healing's okay. I don't know. I think I need to get a 7 on her to see more out of it. But she's gaining 15% turn meter for each ally with full health, but no more than 75% of that. She heals all allies for 480% of Nessa's magical damage. Gives all allies a shield equal to 30% of Nessa's magical damage for each dazed enemy. So she's doing more healing, more shield when everyone's out there dazed. So you kind of want to maybe try to daze somebody with your A3, and then even if you have full health, use this healing move after everyone's been dazed so you get that extra shield. I don't know. I don't know what the best way to do that, but most people want to wait till no one has much health to heal. I don't know. And here on her basic, she's just dealing damage. If the target is poisoned, she's doing more damage through the shield, so she's ignoring shield. But if there isn't any poison, she's inflicting poison. So maybe you wait on the A3, get some more poisons out, do some basics. But my thing is if you have Voyran out there, if you have Thanessa out there, there's I think another one out there, but you're putting out so much poisons that there's always going to be poisons out there. There's always going to be days out there. I don't have Thanessa, but when I do, this is going to be a crazy freaking team. And it's going to be tough. And it may not be the meta team, the best team, but it's my favorite team. It makes Yogi better. It makes Voyran better. There's one other person I think you can use that wasn't that great that makes him better. But if you can take Voyran and Thanessa, who aren't great characters overall, and make them great just with the leadership and other things, that's amazing. This kit makes her kit by herself makes other characters amazing. So I can't talk enough about it. So with her ability to poison, to daze, to heal, to lead the Pride even better than Hera, I mean, that's why she's number 1. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the list. That's the weekly one. If you guys disagree, you agree, let me know. Let me know what your guys' top 10 is. I'm always up for the discussion. It's always fun having a friendly top 10 list to talk about. With that being said, if you guys aren't subscribed, please hit like, please hit subscribe. It helps me out, helps the channel out, and just things get better if you guys do, and I really appreciate it because only 60% now, I think, are not subscribed. Help a brother out, hit subscribe. Yeah, so have a good day, and I love you all, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.